Okay, today, guys, we're talking about quadratic inequalities. What is a quadratic? What's the highest exponent you're going to have? X squared, okay. And inequalities, so we're going to have to use our interval notation, stuff that we did yesterday. What you need to understand, what we need to really focus on, is you want to get the inequality greater than or equal to 0. You want to move everything to one side. Then we're going to solve it as though it was just a regular equation, and we're going to take those points and we're going to do test points. You'll see what I mean by that in just 1 second. Have you guys seen this before? Quadratic inequalities? No, probably not. Okay, all right, good. Okay, number 1. All right, first thing you look at, is everything on one side of the equal sign set equal to 0? Yes, okay, good. Now, I want you guys to take note, all right? I want you to take note. What does this sign say? Less than. Remember, that's going to make an and. What does that mean if it's an and? Where are you going to shade? In the middle, okay? And then think about what your dots are going to be. Are they going to be open or closed? Why are they going to be open? Because it's not what? Or equal to, okay? Sometimes it's good to go through here and give yourself a little, reminder of what you're looking for. So now that we have everything on one side of the equation, or inequality, I'm sorry, and it's equal to 0, we're going to solve this just like we would if it was an equation. So are there factors of -3 that'll multiply to give me -3 and add to give me -2? What are they? X minus 3 and x plus 1. So what are your two x values? Positive 3 and x equals what? -1, okay? Those are your test points we're going to call. So we're going to graph and see where the values of on our x-axis of our domain will make this inequality true. I'm going to put a point here at -1, a point at 3, and what do I always have to have on my number line? 0, okay? So at the beginning, you guys told me that we're going to have open dots, correct? Okay, so I have 2 open dots, and you told me you were going to shade the middle. Always check to make sure. You're either going to shade in the middle or on the outsides. I will always tell you guys to check 0. All right, check 0. If 0 works, then you should color over 0. If 0 doesn't work, then you color outside the other way. So let's plug in 0 real quick. If I plug in 0, 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 3 less than 0. Is -3 less than 0? Yes. So did you just prove to yourself that you're going to color in the middle? Yes. So there is your inequality graph. And then how would I write that in interval notation from left to right? Where do my values start? At -1, and where do they end? At 3. And what goes on the end of both of those? Why is it parentheses? Because it's not included. Very good. So you're going to solve these just like you would any other quadratic. You're going to find your test points, and then you're going to figure out where you're going to color. You can give yourself some pointers, some tips at the very beginning. So let's look at the next one. Is everything on one side and 0's on the right? Yes. Okay, so let's talk about this. What does that sign say? Less than, right? This is an and. And what kind of a circle or dot am I going to have on my number line? Open. Okay, good. Why is it open? Because it's not or equal to. Perfect. Okay. So let's factor. Hopefully it does. They don't always. What are the factors of -6 that are going to multiply to give me -6 but add to give me -1? -3, positive 2. Perfect. So what are my two x values? -2 and positive 3. You guys agree? Okay, so let's put it on our number line. -2's on the left of 0, 3's on the right, 0's in the middle. Remind me again, what kind of dots do I have? Open, perfect. And where did you guys tell me we were going to shade? In the middle, since it's an and. Let's just check. If I plug in 0, since 0's in the middle, it should work, right? So 0 squared minus 0, -6. Is -6 less than 0? Yes. So you're right, we're coloring there. And then how do I write that in interval notation? -2 to positive 3 in parentheses. Again, why in parentheses? Because it's not included. Good. I'm going to run through these pretty quick because they're kind of redundant. All right, everything on one side, 0 on the other. Yes? Okay, what does this sign say? This is an or, greater than. Good. So what does that mean if it's or? You're going to color in the middle or on the opposite sides? Outsides, right? And what kind of a dot am I going to have? Why is it closed? Because it's or equal to. Good. All right, here we go. Let's factor. What times what gives me a negative 20 when I multiply, but a negative 1 when I add? Negative 5, positive 4. I agree. So what are my two x values? 5 and negative 4. Good. So let's put on our number line. Where's negative 4? On the left-hand side, right? 5's on the right. Here's 0. What kind of dots did you tell me, Hen? Closed. And where did you tell me we were going to shade? Outside. All right. So if I plug in 0, should 0 work? No. So let's just check. So you can plug in any number you want. I just plug in 0 because it's easy. It'll tell you right here with your sign. But if you don't remember that, watch. If I plug in 0, it's a good question, Hannah. If I plug in 0 and it works, then I color in the middle. If I plug in 0 and it doesn't work, then I go on the outside. So let's plug in 0. I have 0 squared minus 0 minus 20 greater than or equal to 0. Is negative 20 greater than or equal to 0? No. So that means you should not have shading over 0 because it doesn't work. So you're going to shade on the outside. So how would I write that in interval notation? Perfect. Negative infinity to negative 4. What goes on negative 4? Y. Good. Why is it a bracket? Because it's a specific stopping point and it's included. What goes in the middle here? A big U, because that says and. It's bringing these two together. Where does it start again? At 5 and goes to infinity. Perfect. Now again, if you guys wanted to choose a number bigger than 5 to see if it made the inequality true, if you wanted to pick a number smaller than negative 4, you absolutely could do that. And it should work if it's bigger than 5 or smaller than 4. Negative 4, I'm sorry. Because that's where the values make the inequality true. Just for sake of time, I think it's best to just plug in 0. If 0 works, you should color over 0. If it doesn't work, go on the outsides. All right, let's look at the next one. Is everything on one side, 0's on the other? Yes. What does this sign say? Greater. Good. That means I'm going to color where? Outsides. Good. And do we have open or closed? Open. Perfect. All right. A is not 1, so we got to do a little work here. Negative 24. Factors of negative 24 that multiply to give me negative 24 and add to give me a negative 5. Yep. X minus 8. X plus 3. Okay. My A term is not 1, so what do? Divide both by 4. So I have x minus 2, and then I have 4x plus 3. I set each of those to 0, so what are my 2x values? 2 and negative 3/4. So guys, just because you have a fraction, it means absolutely nothing to your problem. Just understand where it is on a number line. Positive 2 is going to be over here. I have 0. Where is negative 3/4? To the left of 0, correct? Okay, that's fine. So let's talk about our dots and which way we color. What kind of dots should I have? Open, because it's not included. Perfect. And where did you guys tell yourself at the beginning that you should color? Outside. All right, let's just make sure, though. This is one of those special cases where things got a little wonky. Plug in 0. If I plug in 0 and you guys are telling me we're going to shade on the outsides, should 0 make my inequality true? No. So let's try it. So 4. Well, I always remember or, when I think of or, can I finish this problem and then I'll come back to your question? Okay. If I plug in 0, so minus 5 times 0 minus 6 greater than 0. So this all becomes 0. Is negative 6 greater than 0? No. So Hannah, look at that. Negative 6 is not greater than 0. So when I plugged in 0, it did not make my inequality true. So that's why I know I'm not coloring in the middle, I'm coloring on the outsides, because 0 is not in my solution set. If 0 did work, then I would color in the middle. What would our inequality, our interval notation look like? From left to right. Here's negative infinity over here, positive infinity over here. Parenthesis, negative infinity to negative 3/4, parenthesis, perfect, U, parenthesis, 2, comma, perfect. Now, I always remember and, this is how I remember it. Less than, greater than, and I think of it's between, right? Whether it's an open circle or a closed circle. Or greater, I think of it's this side or that side. That's how I remember it. But if you don't remember those things, it's okay, because at the end, when you check your number, and I always check 0, when I plug in 0, as long as it's not part of your solution, if 0 works, like a test point, I mean like an endpoint. If 0 works, then I color over 0. If 0 doesn't work, I color on the opposite sides of 0. And it just comes with practice. All right, we got 4 more. You guys are doing great. These are a tad bit different. How is this one a little different from the other ones? It's not. Everything is on the same side. Okay, perfect. So what do you think we should do first? Distribute, okay? So x times x is x squared plus what? X is less than 12, right? What's the next thing I need to do? I got to move that 12 over. So I have x squared plus x. I'm going to subtract it because it's positive on the right-hand side. Less than 0. Are we now in the correct form to go ahead and start? Yes. What does this sign say? Less than. Okay, good. So this is an and. So think about it. If it's an and, where are we going to color? Inside. What kind of dots am I going to have at both of my test points? Open, because it's not or equal to. Awesome. So let's factor. What are the factors of negative 12? That multiply to give me negative 12, but add to give me a positive 1. X plus 4, x minus 3. Awesome, guys. So I have x equals negative 4 and x equals 3. Those are my 2 test points, yeah? Okay, so I'm going to come over here. So I'm kind of run out of room. Negative 4 is on the left. 3 is over here on the right. 0 is in the middle. Remind yourself, what kind of dots do you have? Open. And you told me it was what kind of an equation or inequality? Less than. It's an and, right? We think and, we go from in the middle. So if I plug in 0, should 0 make my inequality true? Yes. So let's plug it into the original. I have 0 times 0 plus 1. Is that less than 12? Is 0 less than 12? Yeah. So we're going to color in the middle. No. Go to your original right here. So how would I write my interval notation? Negative 4, 2. What goes on the ends of both of them? Parentheses. It's a huge deal, guys, parentheses versus brackets. Super big. What is the big deal about it? Like, what's the big deal? Because one is included and one is not included. So that's a huge deal. All right, let's look at 6. Is everything on one side set equal to 0 or set greater than or equal to 0? No. So let's move this 16 over. So this becomes x squared what? Minus 16 greater than or equal to 0. Now we're good. That says what? Closed. Good. And what? Or. Greater. And it's closed. It's closed because it has the or equal to underneath. Can we all factor this? What is it? Minus 4 plus 4. Good. So your 2x values are 4 and negative 4. So remember, I know some of you are like, can't you just say x squared, take the square root of both sides? We talked about this in one of the last lessons. You cannot do that from this point on because there's going to be imaginary solutions stuck in there sometimes. Not in this case, but anything, you've got to move everything to one side and factor fully because now we can also deal with imaginary numbers. So I have a negative 4, I have a positive 4, and I have 0 in the middle. What kind of dots am I coloring? Closed. And where did you tell me we were going to shade? Inside or outside? Outside, good, because it's an or. So if I plug in 0, should 0 make my inequality true? No. So let's go up here and try it. 0 squared is greater than or equal to 16. True? No. So we are correct. We're going to shade on the outside. It's good. So interval notation. What are the values that will make my inequality true? Tell me. Negative infinity to negative 4. Bracket, good. A little u thing. Bracket, 4 to, awesome. How do you read a book, guys? Left to right. How do we read domain? Left to right. Very good job. Is this kind of fun? A little bit? First thing in the morning on homecoming week, you're like, yes, can't believe we get to do this, so excited. 2 more. Dos más, then we're done. All right, same thing. I want everything on one side, and I want to scoot it all over. So this becomes x squared plus 4x, what? Plus 1 greater than 0. All right, we're good to go. What does the sign say? Greater, right? And what kind of dots do I have? Why are they open? Just cause? Is it included or not? How do you know? There's no line underneath. Good. All right, guys. Factors of 1 that multiply to give me 1 and add to give me 4. Oh, jeez. I have 2 options. You guys are like, no. What can I do? Complete the square or quadratic formula? Does it matter which one we do? No. Some of you like completing the square better. Some of you like quadratic formula. If you complete the square, is this a pretty simple problem to complete the square with? Why? Because the 4 is even. Let's do it both ways, just to show. Let's complete the square first. So we have x squared plus 4x plus a box, right? And then we're going to move the 1 over. It becomes negative 1. You guys agree? Okay, so to complete the square, we take our b term, which is 4. We divide it by 2, and we get what? 2. So my parenthesis over here is x plus 2 squared. Why is it a plus? Because it's positive, good. And then in order to figure out what goes in the box on both sides, I square this and I put it here and I put it there. So what is 2 squared? What you do to one side, you do to the? Perfect. So it's negative 1 and 4 is 3. Everybody with me? All right, how do we complete the square? What do we do? All right, take the square root of both sides. So I have x plus 2 equals. What goes in front of my root 3? Plus or minus square root of 3, and then what's my last step? Subtract 2. All right, so I'm going to write this as negative 2 plus minus root 3. That's fine. You guys are like, I don't know where that is. Well, you do know it's to the left or to the right of 0. It's to the left. Good. Now, if you wanted to use the quadratic formula, let's do that real quick. We'll get the same answer. Negative 4 plus minus 4 squared minus 4 times 1 all over 2. You guys agree? Okay, so negative 4 plus minus 16 minus 4 over 2. Negative 4 plus minus the square root of 12 over 2. Can I break down root 12? To what? So it'll be 4 times 3, so it's 2 root 3. So negative 4 plus minus 2 root 3 over 2. And then how does that break down? Negative 2 plus minus root 3, right? Same thing we got there? Okay, so either way would have worked. Now all we did there was just solve the quadratic. We didn't actually do anything with our inequality. So now we have to graph those 2 places. Now think about this. Okay, 0, I'm going to put 0 over here. I have 2 spots. I have negative 2 minus root 3 and negative 2 plus root 3. Which one is bigger? Correct. So you have negative 2 plus the square root of 3 and negative 2 minus the square root of 3. You guys don't know exactly what that is. But think about it. If you're subtracting, your number's going to get smaller. And if you're adding, it's going to get what? Bigger. Okay, good. So let's go back to our graph. What kind of dots do I have here? Open. And which way did you say at the beginning we were going to color? Outside. Okay, think about it. Now look at this, guys. Where is 0? It's on the outside. So if I plug in 0 and it works, does that correspond with coloring on the outside, shading on the outside? Yeah, 0's on the outside. 0's not in the middle here. So I'm going to say 0 squared plus 4 times 0 plus 1's greater than 0. Is 1 greater than 0? Yes. So then that makes sense that we would color over it. And it happens to be, in this case, on the outside. I always like to think, if you're going to use 0, And if 0 makes the inequality true, it should be included in your shading. If it doesn't make the inequality true, it shouldn't be. Because sometimes it's in the middle of the test points, sometimes it's not. So how do we write our interval notation? Parenthesis, negative infinity to negative 2 minus root 3. Perfect. Parenthesis, u. Negative 2 plus root 3, comma. Perfect. Awesome. Questions? All right, we got one more. One more. You guys already know how to do this too. What's the first thing we need to do if we have an inequality? Well, everything needs to be where? To one side, to the left. So I'm going to say 2x cubed minus 3x squared minus 32x plus 48 is greater than 0. Agreed? Okay, so let's talk about our dots and where we're going to color and all that good stuff. What does that sign say? Greater. And what kind of dots? Open, all right? Now, I have 4 terms here, guys. We don't just go ahead and try and factor it into a trinomial. What do we do with 4 terms? We're going to group it, okay? Well, first look to see if there's a GCF. Is there? No. So let's go ahead and group. Remember the first 2, and then the second 2, you've got to keep that third sign in there. Yes, sir?
How come you don't just combine it all the way down?
Okay.
I thought they were going to split.
No worries, no worries. All right, so what's the GCF of my first 2 terms? Okay, I'm going to take out an x squared, and I'm left with 2x minus 3. Perfect. What about the second 2? Remember, I want my second parenthesis to be 2x minus 3. Use that. Say it again. Bigger. If I take out a negative 16, if I divide this by negative 16 and this by negative 16, what's negative 32 divided by negative 16? So 2x. Then what's 48 divided by negative 16? Minus 3. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So what do I take out and write in the front one time? 2x minus 3. Perfect. And then my leftovers get what? X squared minus 16. Good. Can I factor that a little more? 2x minus 3, x plus 4, and x minus 4. All right, how is this one a little bit different? There's 3. Does that make a big deal? No, just makes a little more work for us. I have x equals, if I move 3 over and divide by 2, that gives me 3 over 2, right? Here I have x equals negative 4, and here I have x equals positive 4. Everybody with me? Okay, so now I have 3 points I have to test, no biggie. So negative 4, 0, 3 over 2, and 4. Did I put those numerically in the correct order? Okay, good. Now we have to talk about our dots. What did we say they were at the beginning? Open, good. So I have open dots at all these spots. Open, open, open. 0 is not included in your dots. And now we have to figure out where the inequality is true. I know at the beginning you guys told me or. That doesn't mean you just automatically shade on the outsides because there's more than one test point. So what's the first point we should try? What's the easiest one to try? 0. Let's plug in 0 and see if it works. If 0 works, then we should color over it. So I have 2 times 0 cubed minus 3 times 0 squared minus 32 times 0. Is that greater than negative 48? Well, all of this becomes what number? 0. Is 0 greater than negative 48? Yes. So you know that this is part of your solution right here. So now we need to figure out what else works. Pick a number, guys, between 3 halves and 4. 2? You guys agree 2? Okay, let's see if 2 works. So I have 2 times 2 cubed minus 3 times 2 squared minus 32 times 2 plus 48. Is that greater than 0? Well, 2 cubed is 8, and 8 times 2 is 16. 2 squared is 4 times 3, yeah? What's negative 32 times 2? Negative 64. Is this going to be true? Is this value right here going to be bigger than 0? No, you guys can already see that. When I combine 16, if you want to, go ahead. 16 minus 12 minus 64 plus 48. That's not going to work. So 2 is not, this is not part of my solution in that area. Not going to work. What about a number bigger than 4? On the other side, okay, let's try 5. 2 times 5 cubed minus 3 times 5 squared minus 32 times 5 plus 48 bigger than 0. Yes or no? Yes. Could you go ahead and, yeah, guys, what's 5 cubed? 125 times 2, 250. And then I'm going to subtract 75, right? Minus 32 times 5 plus 48. This is going to be true. So what does that mean about this side? It's part of my solution, right? So that works over there. Do we really need to check over here? You don't really have to, because it's not going to be in consecutive parts, but if you want to, that's fine. Try negative 5. Right? You guys agree negative 5's over here? So let's say... All right, negative 5. Angel, walk me through it.
All right, so once you do the first thing.
No, tell me everything to write down.
All right, so 2, -5.
Mm-hmm.
Minus 3, -5 squared. Minus 32,
Greater than negative 48. Okay. Okay, so what is negative 5 to the third power? So I have 2 times negative 125. This becomes 25, right? Times what? So this becomes negative 75, correct? Is that what we had before? No. You guys have got to pay attention. You've got to work through this. This is where you guys make mistakes. So many of you just either go along or you just go, oh yeah, a silly mistake there. A silly little mistake makes a huge deal, guys. I need you to actively participate. We are almost done with this last question. Write this down. Work it out with me. What's negative 32 and a negative 5? Positive what? 165. Good. Then minus 48. Is that, oh, sorry. 160, right? Yeah. And then greater than negative 48. Whoops. So this is negative 250 minus 75 plus 160 greater than negative 48. What's negative 250 and a negative 75? Negative 325. If I add 160 to negative 325, is that going to be greater than negative 58? No, it does not work. That's why this area does not work. One little sign mistake, one little not paying attention is going to wreak major havoc on you guys. Please, please, please follow along and try. You guys aren't going to have a calculator and you might have big numbers, so we have to be able to do this. How do I write my interval notation? Parenthesis, exactly like you see it. Parenthesis, negative 4. Perfect. Parenthesis. U. Perfect. Good job, guys. That's the hardest problem on this. The only reason it's hard is because the numbers get a little bigger. But other than that, you guys can handle this, no problem. We good? All right, good for you guys. Guys, the question was, if you get a quadratic, if you get a quadratic, you have to check it. You always have to check to see where you're going to shade. You don't have to plug in negative 2 minus root 3. I use 0. But you always want to check 0 is what I'm saying. Like you want to check 0.